I know that a video of this caliber should be saved personally to the very end of this year, like around December. But I figured to drop this video right here, right now, because I'm not gonna lie when I say this, that ever since the Uwe Scooty Young Thug album that dropped last week and the discourse that came during the promotion of this album and after its release, I think it's comfortable and safe to assume at this point in time that this Young Thug album might be one of the worst projects of the year. But I don't know personally because I haven't bothered giving this album a shot. Why would I? Because I haven't listened to any Young Thug album. I'm sorry to say that, but I figured because of how mixed bag the Uwe Scooty album from Young Thug has been now, I figured why not list down the three worst rap albums to drop of this year of 2025. And to be clear, this is my opinion at the end of the day. And again, there might be more shitty, more disappointing, more terrible rap albums to come out earlier this past year, or what's to come out for the next 3 months from this point forward. But I think generally and personally, these three rap albums are probably the worst rap albums to come out this year. And again, Uwe Scooty is definitely not going to be in the running. Again, I got inspired to make this video because of this project and just me thinking back and looking back of some of the most infamous, like, holy shit, what did we just listen to releases of this year. So first off, I guess we'll start with a pretty big one. At the number three spot, I think that this honors has to go to the Carter Six. Again, Lil Wayne's the Carter Six probably needs no introduction at this point. This is undoubtedly not only a super dismal disappointment from the Carter series up until this point, but considering that his last Carter Five album came out back in 2018, and that album was respectable, wasn't perfect by any means, but I think that that was still a good, solid project. The Carter Six, however, took everything that we had heard from Wayne up until that point and all of his mixtapes prior, because like I said, it's not like Lil Wayne was silent throughout this whole time period from the Carter Five to the Carter Six. He's been dropping like mixtapes in between, as anyone that's a Lil Wayne fan should know. And the Carter Six, given like the background, given the context of everything, this album has really not aged all too well after its June release of this year. And on top of it, like there's not a whole lot you can say about the Carter Six that you can really shove compliments about, outside the fact that personally I would agree with some people saying that the first two songs off of this project are pretty good. They're really nice of a way to like really kickstart the project. And yes, to this day, Peanuts to an Elephant might be the worst song off of this project and one of the worst songs that Lil Wayne has ever released. But there's some people that have appreciated the song to a degree. But at the end of the day, I think it's pretty clear that the Carter Six really was not only the most disappointing rap album of this year, but possibly one of the biggest fumbles that Lil Wayne has ever dropped in general. And again, if you look into why the Carter Six flopped this badly commercially and critically, you will understand why. But moving on, of course, at the number two spot, I think this one should be pretty dead obvious given the title I'm about to say, but Jack Boys 2. Now, again, Jack Boys 2, to be fair, is a collaboration project with Travis Scott and all of his members that signed to his record label. And again, even though this wasn't Travis Scott's fault at the end of the day, it is without saying that Jack Boys 2 is probably not only the most this felt like a really long project in general, given that like yes, it's an hour long, but it felt super long, really bloated. Has features from label members like Don Toliver, Shaq West, Sofago, etc. that was on this project, but it's like not a lot of like reason to care or talk about Jack Boys 2. And again, it even makes me wonder like what was the whole point of Jack Boys in the first place? Because when Jack Boys in 2018 came out, I remember that album was being talked about nonstop and like, oh my god, this is really great. This has a lot of great talent. Travis Scott has something going for it, and there's so much potential to build up. And with Jack Boys 2, this just feels like a really underwhelming follow up to Jack Boys 1. Because even with some pretty harsh critics are saying like Jack Boys just fails on all fronts that something like All Future did back in the day or the ASAP crew did back in the day. And this just feels like super watered down, super plain, super unmemorable of an album that to me is just not worth listening to and just feels like a huge waste of time. And I agree. Listening to a few of the tracks off of this album, there's like not a whole lot I can really compliment or give say as like what are like my favorite songs off of this album, because a lot of it is just super forgettable and overall just a huge waste of time. And a lot of the big artists that Travis did sign at the time really has more or less come and gone at this point, especially with Shaq West, to say the least. So that would be what I would say about Jack Boys 2. And I just feel like at the end of the day, it's just a forgettable compilation album that no one has really thought about. But I figured to throw on your guys' radar because why freaking not? But I think the number one worst rap album of the year, going off of what I have heard, I have seen, I have witnessed, is an album that I'm pretty sure no one in their right fucking mind even considered would ever drop an album ever, especially since his last album was 20 freaking years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And that is Will Smith's Based on a True Story. Yeah, this thing sucks. It's terrible. This came out back in March of this year, and my God, it is just. It's not really good. It just feels like again. I will commend that there are some commendable moments where Will Smith is like trying to get back to like what made him special and what made him like a rap artist to begin with. But at this point, everyone knows Will Smith as the guy who is on the big screen, who acts, who does stuff. And yes, obviously the infamous slap that made Will Smith the household spitball that we know today. But prior to that, he was a really good rapper that was respected in the 90s. And to see Will Smith try to recapture that with him dropping this album based on a true story, it just comes off really cringy, and at times like it's trying to force you guys to be like, yeah, Will Smith is bad. You gotta like listen to him, pay attention, da 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 da. And it's like it just doesn't hit on all fronts, man. Because that's the thing. Like even someone like Jaden Smith, for example, who while I haven't been like fond or crazy about anything new from Jaden as of late, I at least still pay attention to what Jaden Smith has to offer because he has a lot of talent, a lot of charisma. He still has a lot of artistic vision that's worth checking out. With Will Smith's based on a true story, I don't see any of that at all. It just feels like a random mesh of an album and just another album for everyone to be like, oh hey, it's Will Smith. He can still rap. He can still do it. He can still showcase why he's the king of rap. When in reality, it's not the case, you know. And yes, maybe at the end of the day, the only compliment I can say about this project is that the only thing that's good is that the features carry. But the features off of this album, you only have Big Sean, Russ, Jordan Lucas, and Jaden featured off of this project, and that's those are the main features, mind you. So yeah, I think that with what we have here, based on the True Story, is probably the worst rap album of the year as of right now. But hey, there's 3 months left. There's a good chance that maybe there's another worst album from these three that I mentioned in this video that could be worse than these three, right? So who knows? But like I said, I just want to put these albums on your radar to just kind of throw out there and give my reasons to why these are pretty bad, more or less. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Later.